All right, guys, welcome to social studies today. There are a few things that you're going to need for Wednesday. One is over here on Google Classroom. You're going to need to have the week 1 e-learning lesson. So if you don't already have that slideshow open, go ahead and open it. And then the second thing you'll need is the 8.1 notes. You've got a few options when it comes to the notes today. The first option is that you can open up your set of notes, and mine is going to load a little slow. But option 1 is that if you have a printer at home, you can print off a set of the note sheets and then just fill in all of the blanks like we would do in class. Now, most people probably don't have a printer at home, so that is totally okay. Option number 2 is that you can just fill out your notes electronically. So you're just going to double click here on the note sheet where it's yellow and then just type in whatever the answer is, and then you'll have this like set of notes to go back and refer to. So keep your notes open and also have this week 1 e-learning slideshow. I'm going to make mine kind of big, hopefully, so that we can kind of see all of the things on the screen. So our target today is identifying how Thomas Jefferson's election changed the U.S. government. We're going to be able, through this lesson, to describe why that election of 1800 was important, explain what a peaceful transfer of power means. We're going to describe what Thomas Jefferson believed about the federal government, and we're going to explain what happened in Marbury versus Madison, which is just this like Supreme Court case that will be really important. So today, your job is to complete the 8.1 notes, either by typing them or printing them off, and then you're also going to answer the Pear Deck questions as they pop up. When there is a Pear Deck question, just go ahead and pause this video if you're watching it. If you're not watching the video, then you don't have to worry about it. All right. Just like if we were in class, you're going to go to joinpd.com. This time the code is QICVS. Quick incentives conduct victorious submarines. Again, that's QICVS. Now, this should already be in student pace mode. But if it's not, just let me know and I will try to fix it really, really quick. You can watch this nice little video over here, or you cannot watch the video. It's your choice. Okay, let's get started with this lesson and filling in some of our blanks. So Thomas Jefferson is the 3rd president of the United States, but we've actually already talked about him a few times in class. So just as a reminder, he was a patriot during the Revolutionary War. He was a member of the First Continental Congress and the Second Continental Congress. He wrote some important document called the Declaration of Independence. You might have heard of it. During the Revolutionary War, he was the U.S. ambassador to France, so he convinced the King of France to send us weapons and supplies so that we could defeat the British. He was the first Secretary of State, the 2nd Vice President, and the 3rd President of the United States. Over on the side here, there is a nice 1-minute video about Thomas Jefferson. You can go ahead and pause me to watch that short little video. It's kind of interesting, so I'll just pause while you do that. Okay, just a few more quick facts about Thomas Jefferson. This is just a review from the last chapter. That he was an anti-federalist, so he didn't like the U.S. Constitution. Because he didn't like the U.S. Constitution, he was the co-founder of the Democratic Republican Party with James Madison. He believed in strict construction, so he thinks the Constitution, you should only do literally word for word what it says. He also really wants a weak central government, so he doesn't want Congress or the president to have a lot of power. He wants states to have more say over what should happen. All right, we're going to pause here. And you're going to answer this Pear Deck question. Who is Thomas Jefferson? What's something that you already know about him, either because you just know it or because it was just a review from one of the last 2 slides? So pause me, answer this question. All right, this is going to be some of our new stuff for today. One of our big success criteria was talking about the election of 1800. Remember, there are 2 political parties in 1800, the Federalist Party and the Democratic Republican Party. 2 Federalists run, including John Adams, who is currently the president, and then Thomas Pinckney, And then there's 2 Democratic Republicans, Thomas Jefferson, who, remember, didn't really like John Adams, and he's also vice president, and this guy named Aaron Burr, who we haven't really talked about, but he'll be kind of important in this lesson. On the side here, there's actually a really great video about the election of 1800 that you really need to watch. So again, you're going to pause me, you're going to watch this video. Okay, after watching the video, I just really want to know which of these 4 guys would you vote for if you were voting in 1800? John Adams, Aaron Burr, Thomas Jefferson, or pick me. So pick your vote. I'll share the results maybe next week. Okay, let's talk about the election of 1800. It's one of my favorites in all of U.S. history. And the reason it's my favorite is that it gets really complicated. Now remember, the popular vote is important, but it's the Electoral College who actually decides who becomes president. The problem in 1800 is that Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr both got 73 electoral votes. That's a tie. So nobody's really sure who wins, and they have to go back and look at the Constitution to figure out how to solve this problem. Now in the Constitution, it says if there's a tie in the Electoral College, then the House of Representatives has to vote to pick the winner of the election. That sounds easy enough, except the House of Representatives couldn't agree. They voted, and then there was still a tie. So they voted again, and there was still a tie between Jefferson and Burr. In fact, they had to vote 36 times before they ultimately declared a winner in this election. And the only reason the 36th vote mattered is that this guy, Alexander Hamilton, maybe you've heard of him. I think we talked about him a few times. Yeah, remember how he hated Jefferson? Yeah, turns out in 1800, he decides that Aaron Burr is worse than Thomas Jefferson. So, he had to really, really, really hate Aaron Burr because he and Jefferson did not get along. But Hamilton convinces a bunch of the Federalists in the House of Representatives to vote for Jefferson. So on this 36th vote, Jefferson wins and becomes the 3rd president, but Aaron Burr becomes the vice president. Because this was really, really complicated and things got kind of dicey between Jefferson and Burr, the House of Representatives and the Senate passed a new amendment, the 12th Amendment, which basically just says that we're going to have a separate ballot or a vote when we look at president and vice president. So hopefully this doesn't happen again. All right. So the reason that we do care about the election of 1800 isn't necessarily just because it was complicated. It's because of something called the transfer of power. So John Adams was a Federalist. He super lost the election of 1800, and in fact, his whole political party lost. And now we have a new president, Thomas Jefferson, who has the opposite ideas. He's a Democratic Republican. But in the election of 1800, people kind of realized that we live in a true democracy. So whatever the majority is, whichever political party it is, if they win the election, they just win the election and there's nothing you can do about it. We're not going to start fighting each other. We're not going to not follow the rules anymore. We're going to do whatever the majority of people in the US want. And that sends a big signal to the rest of the world that, yeah, our democracy really is going to work, that the people, the citizens of the United States, have power through their votes. Okay, hope you were paying attention to that last slide, because now I want you to tell me, why was the election of 1800 so important? And you can either type it or you can draw it. And some of you are excellent artists. Carlos, I cannot wait to see what you draw for me on this one. So go ahead and pause me and go ahead and write or draw your answer. Unpause me when you're done, though. Okay. Oh, no, my picture didn't load. Oh, that's not going to work. There we go. You have to see the sad picture. Okay, technology. We'll make it small because you have to see crying Aaron Burr. Okay. Jefferson really hates Aaron Burr and doesn't let him do his job as vice president. Essentially, he just says, Burr, go home to New York and just deal with it. So that makes Burr super angry, and Burr spends a lot of time thinking about whose fault it is that he's having a rough time. And he realizes that it couldn't be his fault. Instead, it has to be Alexander Hamilton's fault. So Burr is super angry. He sends some nasty letters to Hamilton, complaining about how mean Hamilton is and how he cost him the election and ruined his life. But in 1804, Burr has this chance to get on the right track again. And he decides he's going to run for governor of New York. We'll see how this goes. But also, he's so sad. All right, we'll see if this will load now. Oh, there's sad Aaron Burr. Okay. All right. So the election of 1804 for New York doesn't actually turn out very well for Aaron Burr. And that's partly because of Alexander Hamilton. Hamilton has a lot of political power in New York, especially because his father-in-law had a ton of political power. He used to be a senator from New York. So Hamilton pretty much devotes all of his time to just telling people why Aaron Burr is the worst. He just gives tons of speeches and writes letters and then gives more speeches and makes posters, basically saying that if you vote for Aaron Burr, you really just want to ruin the whole state. So, naturally, Aaron Burr loses the election again. And he tries to think about whose fault it is, and he decides to blame Hamilton again. And because it's 1804 and people don't really think through how they should handle arguments, Burr just decides to challenge Hamilton to a duel. Hamilton, also not being very smart, decides that fighting is the only way to solve their argument. All right, let's think about this. Is fighting a good way to solve an argument with someone? No, your answer should be absolutely not. That's only going to probably make things worse. But Burr and Hamilton aren't really thinking about that. They just really want to fight each other. So, sadly, they meet up in New Jersey, and Hamilton and Burr, they take 10 paces, they walk apart, turn around, and then shoot at each other. Hamilton shoots in the air. He realizes at the last minute that shooting Aaron Burr, probably murder is a bad idea. Aaron Burr does not have the same reaction, and he's like, cool, I'm going to shoot Hamilton. And he does, in the hip. And then Hamilton dies. Cool. So shooting people is bad, and Aaron Burr is put on trial for murder. He tries to run away first, but you're always going to get busted. So he gets caught. He's convicted of murder. He goes through this whole jury trial, and people are like, whoa, Aaron Burr is a really bad guy. Hamilton was right. He would have been the worst governor of all time. But because Burr was still technically the vice president of the United States, there hadn't been a presidential election until November, Burr doesn't go to jail. But his political career is pretty much over. And he has to move way out west, and his friends don't want to talk to him, and pretty much nobody likes him anymore. So he spends his whole life being super bitter and blaming one person for all of his problems. Guess who that person is? It's Alexander Hamilton. All right. We're going to shift back in time to the very start of Thomas Jefferson's presidency. So John Adams was a great guy, but sometimes he procrastinated just a little bit. And in this case, it was kind of a big deal. On John Adams' very last day as being president, he realized that he had a lot of federal court positions that he needed to put judges in. So he stays up the whole night picking people to be judges in those courts. All of them are Federalists. He writes the letters, so all of these judges will know that they have these jobs, telling them where to report and what to do. One of these midnight judges is some guy named William Marbury, who's going to be really important. Now, Adams is up like all night working on these letters. And then the next day, Jefferson is inaugurated. He's trying to like move into the White House, trying to like make sure that he's like setting up his office, getting ready. And he's got someone to help him out, his best friend, James Madison. Before John Adams leaves, he sees James Madison and he says, "Hey, I've got all of these letters that I was supposed to deliver, but like I'm on my way back to Massachusetts. Can you please deliver all these letters to these judges for me?" And then John Adams just like pieces out and goes home. Madison is a really good friend, and he thinks, wow, it's super unfair that Adams appointed these judges on his last day as being president. Like, he should have just waited so Thomas Jefferson, my friend, could appoint his own judges. So Madison just doesn't deliver the letters. He throws them away and burns them. A lot of the judges are then later told by John Adams and lots of other people, like, hey, you were supposed to get this sweet federal court job. We're not sure what happened to your letters. A lot of them are very upset, including William Marbury, who decides to sue James Madison for not giving him his job. That court case goes through all 3 levels of the district courts that were created in the Judiciary Act of 1789. So the case goes all the way to the Supreme Court, who, to be honest, hadn't been very busy, mostly because they just weren't quite sure what to do. There isn't anything in the Constitution that mentions the Supreme Court, and it doesn't really explain, like, this is what federal courts should do. So they don't really know. But they're super excited that they have a case, this Marbury versus Madison. They're going to try to do their best, and it ends up being one of the most important cases in all of U.S. history. Now, what the Supreme Court decides is that, first of all, it was pretty low down that James Madison did not deliver those letters. So they feel bad for William Marbury. But they also say that the law Marbury is using in his defense is unconstitutional. It doesn't follow the rules of the Constitution. So because that law was unconstitutional, Marbury's, like, his argument doesn't stack up in court, so he doesn't get the job, even though it seems kind of unfair. Oops. But this is important because it's the first time the Supreme Court declares something unconstitutional. We call that power judicial review. It's the Supreme Court's most important job. It's what they do 90% of the time, but that power didn't exist until 1801 when Marbury is trying to sue James Madison. This is not a power that's in the Constitution because, like, the Constitution doesn't have the Supreme Court in it. So Marbury, even though he didn't get his job, did set like a precedent for the next 300 years of the Supreme Court. So thanks. Sorry you're unemployed. All right, here's our exit ticket for today, which is, why was Madison versus Marbury an important court case for the Supreme Court? If you're stuck, I would definitely check out the last slide. Although, speaking of the last slide, there's also like an awesome video on Marbury versus Madison right here. If you click it, it will take you to YouTube, and it's this channel called Crash Course. There's lots of different topics in Crash Course. This one is all about government and politics, and Craig here is going to spend a lot of time talking about Marbury versus Madison. It's an awesome video to watch, but to be honest, it's designed for like high school freshmen and sophomores. So if it goes over your head and you don't want to continue watching, that's totally okay. But if you're up for a challenge, check out what Craig has to say. All right. Now I will let you pause and fill out your Pear Deck slide. Okay, just a few quick reminders for tomorrow. 1, make sure that you're getting missing assignments turned in, which does include test corrections, especially those short answers. And then just email me a link to whatever assignment you're working on so I can go back and check it. If you have any questions about like the notes for today or a past assignment or really just like how e-learning is working, or to be honest, if you just want to like chat, I get it. Send me an email or like send me like a Google chat request and we can like work it out. Also, make sure you're touching base with me if you think you've turned something in and you're not seeing it in Synergy. It may be that I'm still grading it, but it could also be that like I just missed your email with the link. So don't panic. Just email me so I can fix whatever you've got going on. All right. Hopefully I will be able to see you guys soon, but have a great day.